We're recording. So here we go. Welcome to Eastside Connect. Today it's great to see so many fantastic Eastsiders that I miss seeing in person every week. It's wonderful to see you all come on down. We've got some special guests on the show today. Talk about the PPP. We've already had two kind of advanced questions about the PPP, and we'll return to those. We'll get Rick Howden to give us the short summary on those again when we kind of get started. But it seems like this PPP that's rolled out is a little different. So our goal today is to focus on what's different about the PPP. And we'll have Ku Yang, who's on our board, the treasurer of the ESABA's board from Highway Credit Union, and Rick Howden from Ramsey County, give us some of those features. But first, we're going to do some introductions with all of you. And we're going to do a police update with Senior Commander Kurt Hallstrom, who's on the call. So we'll do those first. We'll process a little bit about PPP, and then in the second half of the hour, we'll take your questions as well as what other support are you looking for. One of the things I love about these meetings that has done really well is really allowed us to open this up, and we'll do it around the Zoom around just that question, like what other support are you looking for? Out on the east side or inside the network or in the community at large? What kinds of things do you have that you need to connect to other people? All of these questions kind of become a way that we build our network around support. So, but here we go. If you'll turn on your camera, if you can, let's do that introduction round. And we'll kind of go from here. So you'll know that we'll also pull the chat up, and that's where you'll see the agenda. And you can also post questions or comments in the chat. I'll be watching the chat, and I'll ask Darren Varley also to help me watch the chat today to kind of work on that, if Darren will. I saw him move directly toward his keyboard when I said that. Isn't that great? Thanks, Darren. Okay, so if you own a small business or run a small business on the east side or part of a small business, give us a wave. Who do we have on the call who's from that small business sector? We have Mark Gallagher, we have Jorge Samper, we have Larry Laughlin and Brian over there at Donald's. We've got Nichole Fairbanks at Harrington and Langer. Who else we have who's part of a business? Darren Varley, did I say Darren? Yep, there we go. Okay, cool. If you are part of a nonprofit on the east side and do crazy, amazing nonprofit work over on the east side, who we got? We've got Elaine from Hazel Park Learning Center. We've got Jean from Cornerstone, Haley from Urban Roots. We've got Jennifer Schneider from the Lutheran Church, whose name's escaping me at the moment. Oh no! Our Savior's Lutheran, our Redeemer.
Our Redeemer.
Our Redeemer, oh, it's so close. We've got Katie Matson-Daly from the Beloved. We've got Nicole McMahon from Minnesota Humanities. We've got Claire Thomas from ESNDC. Chelsea Fye from Visit St. Paul. Shatika from Family Values for Life, Shatika Flowers. All right, cool. Jonathan Banks, you are not a nonprofit, are you? No, Next is not a nonprofit, but Jonathan Banks, so fantastic to see you back on the show, our special guest star last week with the Restaurant Resiliency Project. Good to see you back.
I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, great. Welcome back to the show. All right, cool. If you are a part of a public-private partnership or some other governmental entity or something like that, give us a wave. All right, Jonathan Banks is good. Okay, great. Next is kind of the Restaurant Resiliency Project. Would you call that a public-private partnership? Okay, cool. And Rick Howden from Ramsey County. That's definitely governmental. And that's what we got. All right, for that sector. Perfect. And of course, we've got Senior Commander Kurt Hallstrom on the show. Did I miss anybody to start off with? Kai Lawson, we didn't say hi to you yet this morning, but with Aflac Insurance. Kind of not a public, but that's a private insurance, I guess is how we'd call that. Yeah. You're running your own small business over on the east side. You probably fit in that category, man. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you right then. Okay. But I think those are the folks who, oh, we've got Payment Smith, Tyler Tran on from Payment Smith. And Tyler doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to ask him to be our special guest star next week to talk about some things that are internal to ESABA. So you're all hearing it at the same time he is. Okay, let's hear from Senior Commander Kurt Hallstrom about just updates, any anything that you want to tell us about police reports or updates on the east side? Senior Commander?
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I don't have a camera. I'm told I'm getting a laptop with a work docking station that'll have a camera. So if we continue to do the virtual meetings going forward, you'll be able to see me. So I apologize for that. So I don't know if you've heard, but last night we had a violent incident on the east side. Again, a double homicide. Priority for the department to solve that and work that. Don't believe that there's any danger to the general public, but it's just another chink in the armor of the reputation kind of on the east side and priority and terrible tragic event that happened. So we ended the year last year with our crime trends and crime statistics, down in some categories and up in others. Commercial burglaries were up a little bit. Probably, I have my fingers crossed that was due to the civil unrest from May and June, but we don't know for sure. Home burglaries were down, and a couple of other crimes, but obviously the ones that are garnering the attention, the egg assaults, the robberies, shootings, the shots fired, all ended the year up, and some of them significantly up. So, it's been the chief's priority to reduce gun violence in the city of St. Paul since he took office, coming up on 5 years. The amount of resources that we have dedicated to that are impressive. Commander Stiff, I don't know if you knew him. He was here with me in East for over a year. He's now in charge of the gang and gun unit. So hopefully, we'll make progress. The officers recovered 5 guns just last night alone. So it's a daunting and intimidating task that we as a society have to try to wrap our heads around. In response to the events that happened at the Capitol on January 6th, we've had an increased presence and officer presence in and around the Capitol, downtown, and over at the governor's mansion based upon those events. We had a successful transfer of power last night, or yesterday. So we're hoping that the rhetoric and the other things will subside and we can get down to business, which is, gun violence and COVID and all the other things that you all are trying to have a successful business need. Other than that, we're continuing to prepare for the trial of the officers in March or whenever that kicks off over in Minneapolis. I'm trying to think of what's changed. We had a shift in the bid at the end of the year. We have a bid. So we have some new faces over here in the Eastern District, officers. So it's good to have them here. We continue to try to be good stewards of your trust and try to make our community as safe as we possibly can. So does anybody have any specific questions?
Thanks, Commander. Yeah, drop questions in the chat or go ahead and just gesticulate wildly, and let's have any questions for Senior Commander Hallstrom. One of the questions that I have for the people on the call here is, any concerns in your corner of the east side? When you look out and you think about safety or you think about stuff that's going on or things that you've seen lately, any concerns? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Just curious about anything with catalytic converter.
Okay.
Uptick in stealing of things like that, car thefts. We've had a couple in our parking lot.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Great question. Catalytic converter theft was a significant increase last year. The City Council of St. Paul made it illegal to possess a catalytic converter without the documentation you're the owner of the car. And actually it's more along the lines of illegal for a recycler to purchase a catalytic converter. Unfortunately, they just go to Minneapolis or Roseville or outside the city of St. Paul. But I'm told that the legislature is working on a new kind of like back when copper thefts were the big problem back in the day. They're still a problem, but you had to, leave ID and verifiable proof that you were the owner and all of that other stuff. So that hopefully will come out of the legislature this session, that we get that new law to help us with each catalytic converter is worth anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000, depending upon the type of vehicle they came off of. And that's, with the power tools that we have, for 20 cents worth of effort on their part, $5,000 worth of profit is a significant venture. I said last time that we were on this meeting, if you have people that are worried about it, the higher vehicles, the more high end, the more expensive vehicles are probably the bigger targets. Hondas, Toyotas, Priuses, those are targets. You get a cage welded on the bottom of your car around that catalytic converter for not too terribly money, is what I would recommend. And how you park your car could probably be a benefit to you too. But Nichole, who's not on the meeting today, would be happy to come out to your business or your property and assess and say, increase your lighting, increase your visibility, add cameras and stuff like that. If that's something you're interested in, I put my email address in the chat. I will also throw in some phone numbers, but email is probably the best way, because then it's something that I can deal with and address and forward to Nichole or whoever needs to see it. So appreciate your time today. I will be on the meeting. I'll be on mute. So if you have a question later, you can interrupt Paris and just let me know, or send me an email, and I'll try to have an answer for you if I don't have it right now.
Senior Commander, one of the other questions, just where was that homicide last night? Any other details that you can share with the public about that?
It was just down the street here from Team, right, Payne and North.
Okay.
And I don't have any more details that I can share at this moment. But like I said, it's our #1 priority, and it's never a good thing, but these types of crimes are very rarely random. And the participants usually know each other, have some sort of a relationship, so that I'm comfortable saying that there's not a threat to the general public at this time. Obviously there was, we would be doing a different, having a different conversation. So
I want to just ask one other thing that has been on the minds of some folks on the east side. We just haven't heard an update lately, and I don't have news on how we're doing with the unsheltered, unhoused, homeless population on the east side, and kind of where we are with that. I know that a conversation with Nelsie Yang last week, Councilmember Yang brought up a concern about the city evicting folks off, or evictions happening, and just wonder if you've got, just want to be supportive of you. I know you and the police force and how you've kind of been working in a sensitive way around that issue. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, great question. In fact, Commander Castle and DSI, it's really a DSI Parks led effort with the it's every major department that the city has is involved with these camp closures. It's parks, it's public works, it's Department of Safety and Inspection, fire department, police department, city attorney's office, and the mayor's office. Deputy Mayor Tincher is leading, kind of spearheading and leading the issue. Or the process. I think it's going to be the textbook for other cities going forward. Before they started doing the evictions and then the movements out of these camps, and they're making the decisions to move out of the camps based upon life safety issues of the camps. Proximity to the woods, proximity to homes. Propane tanks are being used inside of tents, and these aren't the tents that you take, outbacking to the mountains. These are just regular pup tents, and they put propane furnaces, wood burning furnaces, fireplaces inside of these tents to stay warm, obviously. So before they made any of these moves, they assured that there was shelter space at Mary Hall and Listening House, and I'm trying to think of the name. That there's a day house over on 7th, the old fire hall. Bethesda is online. There's an old dormitory over at Luther Seminary that's open. So there's not a night right now that there's not an open bed somewhere for shelter. and negotiations were made until that was secured, and that was a possibility to be in compliance with the governor and the regulations to leave, to not relocate homeless encampments, so to speak. So it's, we're posting, give notice, working with them with advocacy, getting to know them, making sure that we have a location for them. Right now, probably between 25 and 40% of the occupants of those camps are taking opportunities to go into shelter spaces, and the rest are going, some of the people that are there we find have family. Some of them have a place to stay. They just chose to stay in the camps. But we've come a long ways with how we're addressing the unsheltered problem, or not problem, unsheltered in our community. It's the commitment of the deputy mayor to have no one unsheltered camping in our city as a permanent home. So it's an ongoing process, and there's obstacles, one after the next, it seems, with trying to find locations, and then once they get into that location, then we kind of lose touch with them. But everybody's really committed to do it with dignity and respect, and give people the opportunity to take advantage of some situations with shelter. And we had a fire, and there's been two deaths at the camps in the last couple of weeks, mainly due to the cold weather and some of the other activities that go on there. So that just reinforces the effort that living outside in Minnesota as a permanent solution to your housing, it's not a safe option, and we got to do better. It's a systemic problem. If we go all the way back to the 80s when hospitals closed, in 30 years we have to have come up with something better than outside, or the hospitals that were available in the 80s. So
right.
I'm getting off my soapbox now, because I got on for about another hour after dealing and addressing some of these things. So thanks for your time, and
thank you, Commander.
I'll stay on the meeting.
Thank you, Senior Commander. So feel free, anyone, make comments or questions about any of these topics or others, since we have the Senior Commander's time, and really appreciate you being on, Senior Commander. One comment just, that was made privately to me, that using the word evict, kind of puts the police and other law enforcement in a bad light if people aren't actually paying rent. So, there's some sense of like, what's really the right way to proceed here, and just appreciate your taking a sensitive kind of approach to this, Senior Commander.
Yeah, words do matter. I don't know who made that comment, but you're absolutely correct. It's almost to the point where and when I say we, I mean the city. We're kind of we move too fast, we move too slow, we didn't do enough, we did too much. There's advocates out there that say that they want to live outside and they should be allowed to live outside. And then when something bad happens, then you didn't do enough, or you should have got them inside. So I agree with whoever made that comment that words do matter, and even is probably, camp closures is kind of what we're referring to them as, is that, we don't want people camping outside at minus, or at 5 degrees. This last weekend was cold.
Yeah.
And this weekend coming up is going to be cold again. So hopefully we can, make sure that we don't have anybody else perish due to exposure.
Thank you. Thanks, Senior Commander. Okay, let's appreciate the good conversation, and thanks for the comments. Other folks who have comments, please, or questions, drop them into the chat for sure. I tried to connect with Ku to see if he was having trouble getting on, but I'm going to shift over and just ask Rick Howden to give us kind of the scoop on new things with the PPP that we've got, and we'll take your questions right away. We started this hour with some really great questions. And Rick, I wonder if you can just give us your sense of like what's new with this PPP that people should be watching for, and then we'll get some questions from around this room right here.
Yeah, so I was also hoping that Ku is going to be on, because this really is a, a program through financial institutions, but there is additional PPP dollars out there. And for a second round, people can, if they have and have already expended their initial PPP loan, they can apply for additional funding through the SBA. So that's one of the positive things about that. And in the second round, there's also, I wanted to highlight this because I know some of what brings me over to the east side is the great restaurants over there. I don't know if anybody's on today, but there is a provision that food industry, food service sectors can receive 3.5 times their average monthly payroll costs, which is a higher percentage than any other business can get through the Paycheck Protection Program. So that's one of the big differences here. And I might just hold it there for right now because Ku would probably have some additional insight in terms of the forgiveness. Just a reminder, there's a 1% interest rate, and that is standard across the country through all lenders. I know the first round we had conversations with folks who were wondering if they could get that lower, but they can't. It's a mandate from the SBA. So 1% is the cost, and the lenders should not be or are not allowed to charge any additional fees for that funding. So I think the SBA has made some great improvements to the program, and at this time, it's probably one of the greatest resources that's out there right now. I'll also mention, I know it's just a loan, it's not a grant, but the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is also still available for individuals to apply to as well. And I should also mention that both of those programs are an eligible cost associated with that also includes any looting or vandalism that occurred over the summer as well. So I wanted to highlight that. And then Paris, if you don't mind, I maybe would talk a little bit about the Ramsey County Small Business Relief Program. It's something I've been entrenched in here over the last few months because as was alluded to earlier, the state did supply the county with some additional funding. We have about an additional $10.7 million coming our way. And as Nichole mentioned earlier too, and as we've tried to state on our website, and I know it caused some confusion, but when we launched our last round of small business relief funding, it coincided with the governor's executive order that put a pause on dining and other establishments on Executive Order 2099. And part of the reason why we did the third round was because we needed to spend our remaining CARES Act dollars by the end of December. And so we needed to put out a push to get that expended. The timing of it, as it coincided with the governor's executive order, created a lot of demand. And so we had, we ended up expending all of our CARES Act dollars now, but we're glad that the state provides some additional funding. And so the way that we're approaching this is we are going to take a portion of those funds from the state to fund those applications that we were not able to fund with CARES Act dollars. And I believe Larry mentioned earlier, if you did submit an application to Ramsey County before December 4th and haven't heard from us, that's okay. You know, that's to be expected. We literally just got the money from the state. So we need to shift that over to our administrator to start getting that out the doors. And so it could be another a week before folks start receiving funds from us. So if you haven't heard, don't worry, you're not declined. I know I sent out a letter on December 18th that also caused some confusion, but you're still in the pipeline. Number one priority to be funded as long as all eligibility will be met. And that leaves us with a little remaining, or a couple million dollars remaining to allocate. And so we are putting together, been working on finalizing our latest application and eligibility criteria, and our target date right now is to launch that on February 1st. And so we have a wait list online, a contact form. Folks can submit their email address and get on our wait list, or drop your email in the chat and I'll put it on the list here. It is growing. It's in excess of 400. So we do expect to be oversubscribed and are likely to have to go through a random selection process. The eligibility criteria, I'll just mention here, is going to be fairly similar to our previous round. So maximum of 75 employees, obviously business located in Ramsey County. We are also still accepting sole proprietors. So if folks are self-employed, they would be eligible. And of interest to Paris and a couple of other folks on the call, Nichole, because the state funding is more flexible and allows for funding of nonprofits, nonprofits will be eligible to apply as well. So keep that in mind. So I know folks like ESABA and other organizations that have been so helpful in bringing businesses together have been left out of every other program up to now. So I'm glad to open it up to that and hope we can get some funding out to those organizations. So there still will be criteria around operating expenses and costs. So rent, mortgage payment, payroll costs. We're not competing with the PPP anymore. And part of that reason is the demand and the costs that businesses have incurred over the months, since March have continued to grow. And so there's not as much concern over double dipping, and with these state funds separates us from the federal program. So gives us a little bit more flexibility. So we do expect to see some increased demand. Those are the highlights right now, but expect updates on our website and email communications to go out. I'm sure Paris will push it out through his channels as well. We try to spread the word as far as we can, but February 1st is that date to keep in mind. So be happy to answer any questions on that or any other questions related to assistance. So.
That's great. There are two in the chat right now, and so I'll bring them up here. So did we hear that right, Rick? You can apply again. If you already applied in PPP round 1, you can apply to PPP round 2 if you've exhausted your funds, the previous PPP funds, correct?
Yep, that is correct.
That's my understanding as well. And then secondly, does it seem like this second round of PPP will be forgivable also? That's kind of like a built-in assumption, but is that pretty explicit too?
Yeah, good question. But yes, the forgiveness is there as well.
Now, one of the things that I noticed is that it looks like one of the criteria for this PPP round 2 is that you need to be able to demonstrate a single quarter, at least in 2020, where revenue is down 25%. Is that true?
Yeah, thanks, Paris. Sorry, I skipped over that. But yeah, one of the qualifying factors is to be able to show at least one quarter in 2020 compared to 2019 shows a reduction of at least 25% in revenue. So yeah, thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, so that's a little different than the first round where it was just like, hey, we know everybody's going to be hurting and we're not sure how long it's going to last. But all you pretty much need are your payroll figures. Let's get them in and get some money out the door. This seems like it's a little more measured. And what we saw in the first round was that created a firestorm of usage that didn't necessarily go to the folks who are hurting most. And it seems like this is intended to do a little more of that. Like, let's see if we can connect with some folks that had some significant losses in one quarter, can demonstrate that on their financials as a part of application. Am I reading that right, Rick? Or anything?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Paris. I think as funds start to kind of dwindle, that there's not more coming necessarily. There may be, but nobody really knows. And I think also with kind of an end somewhat in sight, it's really about prioritizing those remaining dollars and getting them to the ones that are affected the most. I think there's been a lot of focus, and rightfully so, on the restaurant, dining, hospitality industry because they've been forced to close, not just here in Minnesota, but around the country. There's been huge impacts. And so I think trying to give them as much support as possible is just a way to target those funds, and something that we're trying to do too, while still being flexible, because we as Ramsey County, through our small business relief program, have learned a lot about the businesses in the county, how they operate, what they do, their importance, and so it's hard to draw that line, and we don't like picking winners and losers. So we've been fortunate up until this point that everybody that applied up to December 4th and meets the eligibility laid out will get funding. We don't like the fact that we have to cut it off and do a random selection and get stuck choosing winners and losers, if you will.
Totally makes sense, Rick. Let's see, we've got a couple of other questions here. Number one, someone asks, how do you get on the list? This is a nonprofit. And there are two, my understanding is there are two different things we're talking about here. One is the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program. And for that, you go through your financial institution. Call your banker. If you don't have a banker, call Sunrise Banks. Nichole, Fairbanks, and I were talking about this last week, that Sunrise really has priority days where they're just processing particular applications, and in particular for our Black, Indigenous, people of color owned businesses, minority and immigrant owned businesses, women owned businesses. There's a mandate for that too in this PPP, which is different and good, that we kind of see some priority being placed. And so definitely connect with your financial institution. But the second thing that you should do is get on Rick's list, because Rick's going to have extra money. And, then he won't just have a picture of new bookshelves in the back of his place there. He'll have a picture of the waiting list of people coming on for opportunity with Ramsey County. So, Rick, what's the way that folks get in touch with you for that Ramsey County money? That is state money that's not in conflict with the PPP. So you apply for the PPP, you can apply for the economic impact disaster loan program also. That's SBA, that's federal. And then there's Rick and state dollars. And Rick, I see you posted your information in the chat. People just send you an email? Or no, that's the, talk to you, Rick.
Yep. So I put a link up there to our wait list. It's a contact form that comes to me that you can supply your email. You can also just drop your email information in the link, or you can email me directly as well, and I will put my email in there as well. So, and I put up the link again. And then too, sorry to keep confusing programs and everything, as if it's not been confusing enough over the last 10 months, but I put up a link to the SBA's lender match program too. Paris is right. Sunrise has been a great lending institution in the community, Highway Federal Credit Union too. But if you're lost or don't necessarily have a relationship or feel like reaching out to those, you can go through SBA's lender match too to find a local financial institution. And they should all start. This started to pick up. It was all passed through Congress and then started on the 11th of January here. So folks should have those funds ready to go.
Rick, there are a couple other just great questions in the chat here. Jonathan asked, and Jonathan, I may just ask you to unmute and tell us, you read that there were qualifications around the revenue decrease, in that if your overall revenue is beneath a figure, I think we're talking about that 25% there, then you can show the decrease when applying for loan forgiveness as opposed to on the front end. Jonathan, just clarify a little bit there.
Yeah, there was something, just looking at the application that's on the SBA website, there was something to the effect that if your overall revenue was under a certain dollar figure, I don't have it up in front of me here, but if it was under a certain dollar figure, then you could apply and receive PPP, but you might not receive forgiveness if you don't demonstrate that when you apply for forgiveness. So it's almost like you could receive the PPP now, but you might have to pay, it might come out as a loan instead of being received instead of forgiven.
Okay, that's new to me. Rick, thoughts about that, or Mark or Nichole? Have you heard anything about? And Jonathan, you saying if your revenue is below a certain threshold?
Correct. Yep.
Rick, you know anything about this? Mark, Nichole?
I missed the question, sorry. I stepped out for a second to ask about the EIDL grant, if that was considered in the cash receipts for.
I believe it's 30%. If you can demonstrate that one quarter, your sales are 30% below, you qualify what they were a year ago.
It's 25, I think, Mark, for that. But Jonathan, you asking about something different than that? Okay, his question's about something else. Jonathan, we're going back to you. We've got Nichole and Mark and Rick listening here specifically.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking for my mute button, and I was also looking for the official text where I found that. So I want to make sure that the experts can get their message across. Why don't I check the link and provide that to maybe I'll send it over to Rick, and then we can circle back later.
Perfect. Jonathan, perfect. Thank you. That's a perfect way to do it. Okay, there was another question here too. Eileen asks, you know, the 25% decrease in gross receipts is fairly complex. Grants are included in that gross receipts. She says Hazel Park is currently trying to find out whether loans are included, meaning that this is what I think you were checking on, Nichole, that $5,000 SBA loan. Does that hit you in the, you know, ESABA has this question too, to say, you know, we had a second quarter that was unbelievable. You know, we were down 25% for sure, but our board managed to figure out how to keep us alive. So when you look at the gross receipts for us, it looks like we did, you know, pretty much equal to what we did the year before, because if we hadn't, we'd have been out of business. So how do we work on demonstrating these? You know, that's sharing a little bit more, too much information. That's DMI from ESABA. But, you know, how do we work on documenting that for a grant application like this? Elaine, I hope I've hit your question.
I can help with so the loan, if you happen to get a PPP loan, that does not count towards your revenue, even though it may be like listed in your QuickBooks, you know, as revenue coming in. And so what happened with the PPP loan is that just recently when they gave the last stimulus out, they said, hey, by the way, that PPP money is not taxable at all. And the reason it's not taxable is because loans aren't taxable, and it was a forgivable loan. It was not a grant. It was called a forgivable loan. So if I took a loan out and added it to my company, I get to pay that, I get that back, that money, or it doesn't count as revenue. So, and the reason they canceled it, and it was really kind of unfortunate because people who ended up not needing it should have to pay taxes on it. It's kind of double dipping. Whereas if you really needed it, you have enough write-offs to cover it, and it's not taxable to you anyway. So in any event, it didn't work that way. And the reason why is that there were thousands of lawsuits lining up for the IRS to fight the fact that that PPP was a loan and not a grant. And then the IRS threw in the towel, said, well, we don't want to, and they clarified that it was a loan that was forgivable.
Interesting. Nichole, do you
Mark,
want to? Sorry, Elaine, one second. Nichole, did you want to say something with that?
Mark, what are your thoughts on the state for that being taxable though? I haven't heard what the state of Minnesota is going to do. The state of Wisconsin did come out and say that they are going to tax it. And I know that the state of Minnesota has put on their non-conforming schedule, their federal non-conforming schedule has put a box for the PPP loan. So we're kind of assuming the state of Minnesota will also make it taxable, but they haven't passed any legislation to that effect or even made a comment such as Wisconsin has, where Wisconsin came out with a statement.
Well, then the state of Minnesota will have lawsuits on that also.
Okay.
Well, at least there's that consolation. Okay, Elaine.
Doesn't mean they won't win, but it is a loan, and then it was forgiven if you met certain qualifications. It was not a grant. Unlike some of the grants that have come out of Ramsey County and things like that,
There were grants.
I believe those are grants and they were taxable. But so,
Okay,
but
thanks, Mark.
certainly
Thanks,
Minnesota has a way of carving out their own rules. So
Elaine,
Yeah, and I will give a shout out to City and County Credit Union, who is our lender and has been fantastic on this. And yeah, they did make it clear that the PPP loan was not part of your gross receipts. The one that's in question for us and will make the difference is the $5,000 that EIDL sent us as part of the emergency package. You apply for it in the same sweep as you apply for the EIDL loan, which we also got, and that's a loan clearly. But we are in limbo as to this grant. And so far the SBA has not been able to answer this question too. It's money to our bottom line, and it would make a difference into on our second quarter, whether or not we would qualify. The state has been great and good in terms of childcare, and we've gotten abundant grants in the other quarters. But the second quarter of 2020 was a very difficult quarter.
Yeah.
So we're trying to find that out. I just was checking, and I appreciate Nichole looking at this. I was just checking to see if anybody had already found that answer.
Yeah, interesting. Let's hang on to that question and see what we can learn. Nichole, I'm getting the sense that you think maybe you wouldn't have to include it, but the question is about that $5,000 grant. We'll see if we can get a solid.
I went out and polled some of my partners here at the firm, and they said they don't think it is, but like you said, there isn't specific guidance saying that it is. So that's just a rough poll of 4 accountants in a room.
That's more because I am not an accountant. So more than I can do.
All right, thank you. Good. Other questions, or Jonathan? I'm eager to swing back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I found the resources and I sent them over to Rick and Nichole, so I'm not sure if y'all got a chance to take a look at that. And
Rick, you see what Jonathan's looking at to clarify that question?
Yeah, I think so. And I think what the language kind of says that if you're applying for $150,000 or less, you don't have to necessarily show that reduction of 25% in order to be approved. However, in order to receive forgiveness on that loan, you have to provide that information. So it's likely that the SBA may approve your loan if it's for less than $150,000, but then you need to prove that quarter over quarter reduction in order to receive the forgiveness. Is that what I'm okay?
You said it way better than I did. Thanks, Rick.
Not a problem. And then because of, and this is an ongoing discussion too, I just wanted to comment on the taxing situation that, prior to even last year, Minnesota did not get tax conformity passed through the legislation or through the legislature. And so that is creating some conflicts between the federal taxing issues and the state taxing issues. And so I know folks are really concerned about that, and rightfully so, because it's not, it doesn't conform with the federal taxing implications. So it was, and maybe Nichole or Mark might be able to talk more about that, but the IRS, when they came out with the odd ruling to say that they were going to tax the PPP loans, as Mark mentioned, they got swift pushback on that because they didn't really have any ground and change that. So, but again, as I'd like to remind people that I talked to too, the grants that are coming straight from Ramsey County are taxable income for your business or individual if you're a sole proprietor.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Jonathan. Glad we got clarity on that. For sure. Other questions? I'm not seeing other immediate questions in the chat at the moment, but if you do have one about PPP, it seems like now's a good time to ask it. I love, Katie says to everybody, a rough poll of 4 accountants in a room is a good start to a joke. Hey, just tune back into the program. We can fill out the punchline over the or if the federal government.
No idea what the punchline. I have no idea what the punchline would be, but it just seems like you're setting up like a rabbi and a Methodist pastor walk into a bar, kind of.
Right, totally. I love it. Okay, so let's see. Let's also just do our around the Zoom here. We've got 10 minutes left for announcements, as well as what kind of support are you looking for? out there. You know, PPP and particular support around finances and helping us survive. That's one thing. What else is on your radar here for things that you're looking for, or things that you have that you're looking for a home for? Oh, and there's Koo. Koo is what I was looking for. Hi, Koo.
Sorry, Guy. I really apologize. I got stuck in a major problem at traffic there.
Okay. Look, Koo, we've had a really nice conversation about PPP so far, but I'm going to invite anybody who wants to ask a question, you know, an additional question for our banker, to drop that in the chat as we process this other question, and we'll work on those questions too with Koo in these last 10 minutes. So Koo, thanks for jumping on the call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I apologize for that, for being late on the meeting.
All right, so we're gonna do one round here of around the Zoom. What support are you looking for, and announcements? And I'll throw up that question into the chat. So there you go. That's what this question looks like. What support are you looking for? Anybody start us off? And then when we do these around the Zoom, what I'll ask you to do is go ahead and give your answer, and then just hand it off to somebody else who will say hi, either make an announcement or pass it on to somebody else if they don't have some particular piece that they're looking for. Who can start us with what kind of support are you looking for? Yes, Jean. Jean, go ahead and unmute. Unmute first.
Yeah, it's so easy to forget that, especially on long meetings. So I am representing Cornerstone Elementary Schools. We are a nonprofit charter school. What we do is we hold a lottery once a year for children to come in, because oftentimes we have more people applying than we have slots available. What I would like to see is perhaps forming, I'll call it a subcommittee, maybe of nonprofits on the east side. And what I would like to be able to do, and what our school would like to be able to do, is meet other organizations that could help us get the word out about the school. Our mission is to serve the children on the east side. The good reputation that the school has gets out to the whole Twin Cities area, and we tend to get families from, from Eagan and beyond, and we'd really like to have the children be from the east side. So we'd like to have avenues for, sharing what's available at the school.
Terrific, thanks, Jean.
Sure.
Tag somebody else.
Sure, I will tag, how about Haley?
Hi there, Haley Ball, Executive Director over at Urban Roots. Urban Roots currently has like a couple projects in the works. We are going to be having some upcoming chef-led events for our cook program and as a fundraiser. So on Valentine's Day, I think we're going to have that published today, hopefully, fingers crossed. We are doing a chef-led demo, kind of kit box and dessert and cocktail demos with Jametta Raspberry and Saba Andualam, our Cook Fresh manager. So that will be out. So I'll probably email that to you, Paris, shortly. We're also going to be doing a spring equinox kit as well. We're also really excited because a plan this spring for us is we are now a certified SNAP and EBT vendor for our produce, and we are increasing our growing space by 1/2 an acre outdoors this year. So our plan is to offer a mobile farmers market this year. And hopefully the goal down the road is, because we do not have a farmers market on the east side, we'd love to eventually grow it and have a permanent space at some point. But this year we will be making our produce relevant culturally and available to all folks in the community. So there'll be more about that soon. So, and then our CSAs will be live shortly as well within the next week or so. And we are adding at least 5 to 10 more CSAs this year to keep up with demand. So feel free to email me if you have any questions. Great. And I can, and I can just pass it off to, how about Katie? Sorry, Katie, I didn't see chewing.
Even on
I
Zoom,
always
you
do
can
that.
catch somebody right when they put a bite in their mouth.
I'm so sorry.
Beautiful.
Oh man. I know last time I was on the ESABA call, I gave a shout out to one of the Sweet Hollow lunches, and I just had the pumpkin curry soup from Sweet Hollow for lunch, and man, so good. Honestly, the Beloved, we are in a relaunch, replanting phase, and so my job primarily is to meet Eastsiders. So if you want to like have a phone call or a walk or a Zoom call with me, I mostly just need friends. We'd be happy to lend our parking lot to farmers market mobile stuff, or I'd be happy to join a nonprofit. You know, if we had some kind of nonprofit hub or community resource sharing hub for the nonprofit side, I'd be happy to do that. But honestly, I'm looking for friends. That sounds really sad, but there we go. I have Shatika Flowers on my list of people I want to meet, so I'm going to call on Shatika Flowers and see what's going on at Family Values for Life.
Hi, Katie. Nice to meet you, and thank you. So Shatika Flowers, Executive Director, Family Values for Life, where we work with single parent households and their children year-round, offering classes to both the parents and the kids. We've had an exciting and interesting and dynamic year in 2020, but we've had some wonderful learning and takeaway, and also some growth. If you were asking me what my immediate needs are right now, we're looking for some one-on-one tutors. We've got some youth from Farnsworth Aerospace School that are in need of math tutors and some reading tutors. We also have a website where we do one-on-one reading with kids, as well as an Amaze curriculum puppet show. I don't know if I'm breaking up. I just got a message on my screen that I'm unstable, my internet connection. Okay. So we are also looking for folks to who are interested in recording a video, doing a puppet show to a book. Or you do the reading and then we'll do the puppet show with your voice. So we're doing some fun things like that, could use that. One of our biggest needs is space. We are growing and we're busting at the seams. And when we get back in person, we are going to be looking for space and how we can do that in a way that we can afford. One of our announcements for women is we've got our post-holiday tea that we do annually. It's an opportunity for us to allow the women that we work with to, at time? Okay, I don't know what that means.
No, go ahead. I was thinking about Katie, who's looking for contacts.
Oh, yeah, I see you. So we've got
we have lots of empty classrooms at the Beloved too. So we're kind of on the far reaches of the east side. We're almost Maplewood, but we have lots of empty classrooms.
Would love to have a conversation with you. So our post-holiday tea, we get together. It's a jumpstart to the new you. So it's really an uplifting time for women to get together. We have a main speaker and then 4 breakouts in our 4 pillars, which are financial, spiritual, mental, and physical. And so we are certainly wanting to invite you all to that. If you're interested, please put your email in the chat and I'll grab them all before this is over and we'll send you an invitation to that. Our post-holiday tea would love to have you. And again, it is a time to meet women. Normally we're in person, so you get to network with about 100 women, but this time we'll be virtual. So networking will be a little different, but we will have some time for networking. Thanks, Paris. And I also like that idea of the nonprofit hub where we can share resources.
Shatika, you want to tag somebody else? Or
sure. Cool.
Okay. Well, I don't really have any major announcement, but we're currently focusing on the PPP loan right now, and one of the things is that we try to help our neighbors either on the east side or around the Twin City here, second round PPP loan here. And sorry, I was driving back from the office to here late, and then I got stuck, so I could not share what you or about the PPP loan. But perhaps you probably read a lot about the new PPP loan. So a lot of change from first round to a second round here, and we try to educate our members. So that's our focus right now. We are looking forward to have a better year in 2021. Hoping all the small business owner are getting better in 2021 here. We certainly have a lot of internal trying to adjust to help all the members' needs. So I don't have any special or any other announcement as far as going on internally in the Highway Credit Union, but we are excited to open a new branch in Roseville, 2021 here, and 2022 another branch in Woodbury. So that's about highway. Yeah.
Totally great. Hey, listen, we are right at wrap-up time here. Just want to make available, if someone does have a final announcement, just raise your hand. I saw Jonathan posted stuff about the restaurant resiliency program. And I see Jennifer wants to make an announcement as well.
Yeah, Hi, I'm Jennifer. Oh,
okay.
I'll be quick, Jennifer. I'll get out of your way. We've got 12 partners registered for the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Program. We have 11 restaurants registered. We're having an information session tomorrow afternoon. So if you'd like to learn more, go to that information session. Links are in the chat. Thank you. Thanks,
Jonathan. I'll also promote that today.
Beautiful.
Really good. Thank you. Jennifer.
Hey, I'm from Our Redeemer Lutheran Church on 1390 Larpenteur, and we are really growing a food outreach program where we serve hot meals prepared by professional chefs, and we also distribute food that is coming from multiple food shelves and local grocery stores. And so my ask is we are looking for equipment because we're having great needs for things like shelving, for freezer space. The food shelves give us all these frozen things, and we're kind of like an extra hub for them to reach out to more people who are not able to get to the food shelf sites. Also, if anybody has funding ideas for getting some of those, doing some more of that food recovery, I've used a lot of Paris's ideas already, but if you know businesses that might want to be offloading some of their equipment. Also, we're looking for more partners and more ways where we can provide sustainable, if you have leftover food, things like that, or volunteers, all of that good stuff. So
fun. Thank you, Jennifer. Totally great, and something we'll get around the ESABA network as well. Hey, thank you all for being a part of our meeting today. I didn't get a chance to give you a little tour of our sponsors, but we'll do that. You're well aware of who our sponsors are, but just to call out those who are on the call here, Koo from Highway and Darren, who was on the call earlier, Harrington Langer and Nichole, and ESABA board members. And just thank ESABA board members. Give a wave if you're an ESABA board member. That's Koo and Shatika, Jorge, and Darren, who was on earlier. And just, looking forward to the work we're going to do. Next week, I'll say we'll be on at the same time, 11 o'clock. So it was fantastic to see that all of you could make it at 11. And we'll be talking a little bit about some internal things that are going on with ESABA in terms of just the way we're going to approach invoices and membership this year. And also, we'll want to get some input from you, similar to what we did just now. So we'll keep this conversation going about who you're working on meeting this year, who you want to meet to add to your network, and what topics would support you in your work for the Eastside Chat, or the Eastside Connect. Exactly the kind of thing that Jean and Elaine have been cooking up for a hub of nonprofits. What other good ideas would help you in your work on the East Side? So I want to say thank you to all of you who attended today. Great to see you. I love connecting with some of my favorite Eastsiders right here. We'll see you again next Thursday at 11 o'clock. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Koo, for being on. Fun to see you all. See you next week.
Glad to rejoin you, Paris. Sorry, I've been just swamped lately, so I haven't been able to make every week, but glad to thank you for pushing me and calling me and reminding me. So it's been crazy, but glad to be here.
Rick, we're glad to have you on the call. Senior Commander, also great to have you on the call too. Rick, you come anytime, and man, I'll be looking forward to what new books you add to your bookshelf. You know.
Sounds
Thanks
great.
for having me. Have a good day.
Yep, thank you, Senior Commander. Jorge, good to see that you got out of the car, but you know your background never changed. All right, y'all. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stu.
All right.
Anything to be with you guys, you know?
Right on. Thanks, Jorge. Talk to you later.
Take care, brother.